get real close. See that? A lot of people don't know about the, and you can see we tried just a couple, but it's a little more brittle than the white types you can run. Leader in chain guide mounts. Hi, welcome to one of our videos. Today we're going to break this video basically into two sections. One section is going to be how to jet your YZ125, and the second section is going to talk about 30 plus tips that you can do to make your YZ125 a better bike. And at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about a comparison of a KTM Gaskets versus the YZ, because we've ridden them all. But before we get into that, there's a lot of people on the internet and on the forums talking about jetting, and everyone seems to have the jetting. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of our credentials so you can get a more comfortable feeling that we do know what we're talking about. So my son Ryder is a 4-time consecutive GNCC champion, all on Yamahas. In the 4 years that he's been racing GNCC, and even further, he's done well over 100 races, not one mechanical DNF. So I think we know how to maintain our bikes. I don't race nearly at the level he did, but at one time I was racing very competitively. I have 8 A-class national enduro championships, excuse me. So we have a lot of experience over 30 years, maybe even closer to 40 years if you put his 10 and my 30 together. He races motocross as well. So a lot of these tips you can use for either motocross or woods. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the jetting, because I think that's the most important improvement you can do to this bike. The way the jetting comes from the factory is not good at all. A matter of fact, I rate motorcycles in basically 3 categories: competitive, a disadvantage, or an advantage. And I would say the bike went from being a disadvantage to an advantage, went right past competitive when we got the jetting right. And at first I was like, oh my God, what did we do here? This bike does not feel like what we're gonna need to win. So hold on, we'll give you the jetting specs so you have the bike you thought you were buying, because once you get the jetting right, the bike is an absolute ripper. So you can do your jetting in kind of 2 categories. The first is you can do the JD jetting, which is very good, or you can kind of piece your own jetting, and both work really well. I would say the strongest our bike ever ran, the most power, like ridiculous, like how powerful it was with the JD jetting specs. The JD jetting recommends a 175 main, which they include, a 50 pilot, which they include, but where you need to use the JD jetting is the blue or the red needle. We were using, and you can't buy the needle unless you buy it from JD jetting. We were using the blue needle in the 3rd position. With those jetting specs, the bike ran really good, a hair lean on the pilot. So we went from the pilot from a 50 to a 52. I'm not sure they include that, so you might want to look at our chart, which we're going to show you. They do include the jetting that they recommend. We felt a 52 is better. So 52, a 175, blue needle in the 3rd position. The bike ran amazingly strong. If you're really on the pipe or you're riding in cold weather, you can't run that jetting that I just gave you. What you would need to do is run a 55 pilot. You would need to run a 178 or a 180 main, and the JD jetting in still the third position blue. Now our bikes are still really strong, and we've been running that for quite a while, and I'll get to the comparison on that and the KTM Husqvarna Gaskets fuel injected and carbureted at the end of this video, because that's not what this video is about, to tell you how it felt. That will work for you in the worst conditions. And when I say the worst conditions, the coldest air, the sand pits, that's always safe. Now, once the weather starts to warm up, or if you're not a very aggressive rider, you'll have to find the jetting that works for you. Maybe go back to the leaner jetting that I recommended. So you can constantly check your plug, which is good. A better way to check is you can pull the top end off or pull the head off and take a look at your piston, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But those jetting specs that I gave you will work for you in the worst conditions. Once it starts to warm up and you keep looking at your plug, you can try to go a little leaner from there. The other option is to substitute the JD blue needle for a Yamaha NYCH needle. And that needle also works very good. It's a little leaner than the blue needle. It all depends on the kind of rider you are. If you're over a couple thousand feet, then I'm sorry, that might not work for you either. But at least stay tuned on the video because you're gonna get at least 30 good tips on how to improve your YZ. So you could run the NYCH needle. It is leaner than the blue needle. And by the way, we're not like these amazingly smart people that figured this all out and we're giving you these top secrets because we just figured it out on day one. We've been racing forever at the most competitive level and always networking with other friendly people like we're being with you. And we've tried things that they've given us, and some of it's worked, some of it hasn't, and I'm giving you what's worked. I have a few friends that have taken these suggestions that I'm giving you. Nobody's come back upset. There is some other options on the market that you can do, or terribly out of stock, like the Yamaha GYTR kit. Hopefully we'll make another video and test that and get back to you on that. So I hope I answered your jetting questions. I can't say for sure that I covered everything, but if I haven't, you can just put a comment in the below and ask, and we can see how it goes from there. All right, so now let's get to the second portion of the video. We're gonna discuss over 30 actually, tips that you can do to improve your YZ125. Some of them are woods, some of them are motocross and woods, but again, we do both. I think you're gonna find something, at least one thing, if not several things, that will help you. And please put comments if you found something that helped you. I would greatly appreciate it. All we want from these videos is your comments, likes, subscribes. All right, so I'm gonna go in order here. One of the things we noticed about our YZ125 is that the front axle did not slide through the axle lug the way we wanted it to. And when I say that, when you push the axle in, first of all, never use a hammer, right? The hammer is really bad. You don't want to use a hammer. When you start to use a hammer, then you're going to start to nick up your axle and get spots where the axle's never going to want to go on without a hammer, and then things don't slide good. So never use a hammer. If you have to use a hammer, if you feel like you have to use a hammer, you need to clean your axle and clean the lugs a little bit, just like you got to clean your bike. But there's a couple of things wrong with the axle lug that we don't like, and a couple of ways you can fix it. So let's take a look here. So here's the axle lug. And this axle has to fit in on this axle lug around this axle and slide back and forth so the forks are straight, and then you tighten it. Now look, if you push that in, you see it pops out. Get real close. See that little lip right there? Like you can just get your finger in there. You push it in, it wants to go right there, maybe even a hair more. But what happens is, if you take this out here, and we've been stretching this and putting in, but we've been stretching this for a long time, so it may not show now, but you do it on your own, you'll see. If you jam this screwdriver in there and keeps it wide, you can see it kind of goes back to where it wants to go. So this one is actually almost flush. Let's see here, just flush. But when you take this out here gently, and you push it in, see how it's stuck like that? And when you push your axle in, that's the way it's going to be in the lug. So you need that lug to be spread open. I'll show you, I'm going to do it here. I need to wear my, oh yeah, we're going to go over this in a minute. Ryder's helping me out here. So you put this in here, and this one's a lot better than it was new. You push it in there, you see how it's flush? We did this, this is our second time making this video. The first time we did it, it was way more obvious on a different bike. This bike seems to be getting a little better, and we'll show you how you can permanently make it better. So why do we put this here? Ryder, glad you pointed that out, because we let it sit overnight for days like this being stretched. So you don't want to ever forget about this, and you don't want to put it on the screwdriver, because if the screwdriver falls out, you'll forget. But now we remember that it's not tight. So there's a couple ways you can improve this problem. One way, like we just showed you, is you can jam the screwdriver in there and then let it sit like that for days or weeks on end, and it will get better. But so far, it hasn't gotten perfect. So what we did is we took one of these, which you can get from Motion Pro or Tusk. It fits right in the axle, right? Then you can put it in a drill and put your axle on it, spin it around really fast, and use an emery cloth or a sandpaper on the end of your axle to just take it down a little bit. And if you do that, it will fit a little better. It's actually fitting a lot better than when it was. But if your fork is not completely aligned on that axle, you're not gonna get the best suspension performance that you can ask for. And we all know the SSS is the industry standard as the best suspension. And even if you have it crooked, it's still probably gonna be the best. But this is make sure you have the best. All right, let's talk about the next thing. Subframe mod. This is a good one. So we all know the Yamaha is a very tall 125, and we're gonna go through a few steps on how you can bring the seat height down. Some you may feel comfortable doing, some you may not feel comfortable doing. In the motocross world, not as crucial, but no matter what, the higher you are on the bike, the harder it is to turn the bike. The lower you are on the bike, the better it turns. So Yamaha did a great thing by straightening out the seat position like this. Like, it used to have more of a dip, but it came at a price of being higher. So there's a bunch of things you could do to lower your seat height. First thing we'll go over is our subframe mod. So, okay. So if you look right here, we have these eye bolts in our subframe. And the way that we do it is we take the subframe off, give it to a welder. He cuts it, slugs it, welds the slug in, taps it, and then you can get these on Amazon. You can get them at Grainger, and then you can adjust your subframe height. And you can get almost an inch at the highest portion of the seat without a major issue of really crunching the bike down and looking like a chopper. So that's the plus side of it. It works really well, except then now with your pipe silencer junction right here, you may have to cut a little bit of your pipe and silencer so they can slide in, and so it lines up a little better with the mounting holes on your subframe. Another little neat trick, since we're talking about subframe, is this piece of black channel right here on the subframe. So I don't know if you've had a Yamaha a long time, but the subframe gets worn out from the boot easily, especially with the new boots having a lot of plastic. So you can get a piece of black or clear if you want, but I think clear is going to look like poop in no time. And just put it on with some really good outdoor two-face tape, and it might not last forever, but it'll last long enough to, save your subframe. So that's our subframe on. Like I said, we got about an inch lower when we measured from the swing arm to the seat bolt. A little less than an inch, I would say, in the center of the seat. But that's one way you can lower the subframe. Okay. What's next here on our list? Oh, our Worx connection perch. I'll take that back. All right. So we have tried a lot of perches. And Ryder, you have the perch stuff from the last, right? So why do we like the Worx connection perch the most? A couple reasons. We had a problem, first of all, with the stock perch not giving great feel and not having quick adjustment here. Like, this is an easy adjustment when you're riding. We felt like the stock one, you couldn't adjust it fast enough when you're riding. Another great thing about the Worx connection one is every one of these pieces here are replaceable individually. So if you start to wear something out, you can replace it individually. And we've tried a lot. We tried a lot of them. It's not just being wear out too. The feel on this Worx connection one is really, really good, right? Another thing we do is, you can see we tape our levers. We definitely like the feel of that a lot better. And they also have this plastic insert here. So if you take a hit and you're not running the old school handguards like we are, and we don't run them on all our bikes, like that bike doesn't have it there. So if you want to protect it, this plastic insert will allow it to move a little better when it takes a hit. So we've had these things for years. We've been running Yamahas forever, and we just don't wear them out. They work really good. Of course, they have the bearing inside too. So we've been really happy with that. And we got a little screwdriver here for quick air screw adjustment. All right, what's next? Suspension. All right, so a couple things about the suspension. So obviously we have the factory connection suspension. Two things. We have them lower our suspension a ½ inch. With a ½ inch lower, the bike gets even lower to the ground, which is nice. Really good for off-road. Definitely good for motocross too. Obviously, if you're losing any suspension, you're going to lose a little bit of performance. For us, it was worth the trade-off. It's completely reversible. They don't have to cut or break or replace any parts. They just put some spacers or washers or spacers in there, and it's a ½ inch lower. Any suspension company can do it. You don't have to use factory connection. But why do we use factory connection? Well, I can make a whole video about that, but I will tell you a couple quick points. Factory connection does more testing with Yamaha, I guarantee it, than any other company in the country. Ampro Yamaha is sponsored by Factory Connection, and I have personally seen them go down to South Carolina several times a year and do Chinese fire drills with their two best technicians, the owner of the company, a mobile workshop, all the Ampro racers, the Ampro racer mechanics, spare suspension, and do non-stop Chinese fire drills, testing suspension and recording in a computer how they're feeling and what's happening. And even though the Yamaha suspension has been very similar for the last few years, the bike's changed a little bit, and they constantly are testing it over and over again, confirming, seeing if they can find an advantage. So I don't think anybody does the amount of testing that Factory Connection does with Yamaha. Plus, they offer free lifetime revalve, so if you decide you're doing motocross and you gravitate to woods, if the guy you sell your bike to is doing woods and your bike's set for motocross, that suspension has a lifetime, no charge revalve service. You still have to pay for oils, and if there's any special parts or springs, that of course you would have to pay for, but the service for a lifetime revalve is included with the suspension, not just the owner. So I could go on a lot more great things about Factory Connection, but I'm not gonna make this video about them. But if you need your suspension done, I don't think you'll find anyone doing more testing than that. All right, let's move on. Apex head. So we've only recently started with the Apex head. We only have one. We don't have it on both bikes. There's a lot of things we're testing right now, back to back. Every time we go out riding, we bring multiple bikes and test everything back to back. And the Apex bike sounds really good. Like that bike just sounds super crisp. Like I would show you, but I've never seen anything sound so crisp on a GoPro video. Maybe like a $10,000 camera, microphone, but it sounds really good. And it runs really good too. So they develop different heads for different needs, whether you want your low end or your top end. And the head that we're using right now is a mid to top, and it is way stronger mid to top, noticeably different. So they're a really good bunch of people. If you want to check them out, Apex head. This one's gonna sound a little strange, but we like to use a damper. And you might think, whoa, that's old school. Whoa, that's weird, that's desert. Let me tell you, the Supercross guys, the motocross guys, they're using dampers. They're not using the handlebar mounted dampers, which is what we use. They're using dampers behind the number plates. And I think once you use one, you'll see why. They're really nice. They do take some tuning. They can make things a little funny if you're doing whips in the air and stuff like that, but it'll need adjustment. And we're not gonna go into a whole video on how to adjust your damper, but we've been really happy with that. And that's kind of why you see that big block on the handlebar. It's because we have our damper underneath there. All right, so for pipes, what are we doing for pipes? So I can't say I've tested every pipe, but we've tested the stock pipe against the FMF pipe and the stock silencer versus the FMF shorty. We find that the FMF pipe gives us more mid to top at a little bit of expense on the bottom. Right? So you have to figure out what you really want. You want a bike that screams mid to top, or do you need a bike that's more luggable in the woods? So that's what the pipe does. The silencer, the shorty, on the other hand, that's been a win-win everywhere for us. It is a little louder, but it sounds really good and runs really good. So we've been using that. Bodywork. All right, so this might sound really simple. We're not going to talk about it long, but first thing we do when we get a bike is we just get a Cycra body kit. And we just replace some of the panels really quick, like that we know are going to be super expensive to replace later, like the shrouds. And we use some of the stock stuff until that's beat, and then we go into the rest of the Cycra kit. And it fits fine, works good. And at the end of the day, you have brand new looking shrouds if you know it's not going to be a muddy day or whatever, and you want to use those. Graphics, obviously you can use anyone you want. We've been very happy with HBD. They sponsor all the GNCC pros. They show up quick, they're strong. Very happy with that. Here's a little unique trick that you may not know. So this one right here is a very unique trick. This tugger here, and it weighs nothing. I mean, it might look a little funny to you, but we use it all the time, especially if you're racing off-road. And I've been using them 10, 15 years. Sometimes even I'm just trying to move the bike in the trailer, and the bike's covered in mud, and I'm in my street clothes, and I just want to move the bike around. Just grab the tugger and move it around. Okay, what's next here? I wanted to wear some like sunglasses to look really cool. What I think I really needed was my reading glasses. Yeah, so we also run, and you can't see it from this side, and we haven't set up that bike yet, but we also run the TM chain guides and sliders. They last forever. And one thing we also run is these chain guide reinforcements. This one is available on Amazon or eBay for half the price of some of the more well-known ones. And one interesting thing about the Yamaha chain guide mounts is, well, it's actually every mount, not just the Yamaha one. They're all too weak for off-road racing. But if you look over here on the other side of the swing arm, you'll see there's a weld here, and that weld really doesn't do anything. And I was told like 20 years ago, or maybe a little less, like 15 years ago, that's a CNC welding error that should have been on the other side for the chain guide tabs to reinforce them. But even if they were on this side and they were reinforcing the chain guide tabs, it still wouldn't be enough. Not enough on the KTMs, not enough on the Kawasaki's, not enough on the Hondas. If you're racing off-road, you need to get some sort of chain guide reinforcement. Okay, so here's another very interesting seat mod, or mod to lower the bike, and it's in the seat. But there's more benefits than just lowering it. So we use Guts seats, and Guts is the industry leader in seat options. They have tall foam, low foam, standard foam, soft foam, firm foam. And what we did is we ran our soft foam so we can get the bike a little lower, but we found that the soft foam was just a little too soft. So what we did is we took duct tape and wrapped duct tape over the top of the soft foam, and that gave us exactly the perfect firmness, still allow the rider, my son, to reach the ground a little more, so a little better than the stock foam, which was really stiff. Maybe it breaks in better, I don't know. So that's what we do, and their seat covers are really good for traction, like in tough traction conditions. We've been very happy with that, like traction on your seat, that is. And we've been experimenting with their regular foam and what they have their Phantom foam. And hopefully we can pull it up from the last video. We raid this to 2 seats back to back. Their Phantom foam is 2 pounds lighter on the seat than the regular foam. Now, maybe the Phantom foam doesn't hold water, and I don't know if you know this, but after you get done washing your bike, we always take our seats and let them stand on the side, and you can see water does drip out of them. Maybe they don't hold the water as much as the regular foam, but it's 2 pounds on the scale. Hopefully we can bring that up and show it to you. So since we're talking about seats, and by the way, there's discount codes for these things in the description, so you can check it out if there's something you want to buy. We use this corner coach, and the corner coach is just like having a seat bump under the seat. And I always have a hard time figuring out where to put the seat bump, and I also find a lot of times with the seat bumps, they kind of crush over time and then they don't really do their job. I haven't tried the ones that Gut sell yet. So maybe theirs are better, but in the past, everything I've tried didn't work. So with this corner coach, they say you don't have to staple it, but we still do, because they do include clips that get to the bottom of the seat. But you can move it and just staple it and try it in different positions. And we found that it really helps us stay in the position we want to be when we're riding. Okay, another thing that we like, that we use, and these are things you may know already, but we like the Worx connection hole shot device. So one thing I like about it too is instead of mounting right here, it mounts over here. And the difference between mounting here and here is here, it's going to get worn out by your fork guard, start to rub, and then eventually break. Here is very well protected. We've never had any problems with it not locking. They include everything you need, the bits to do it, the instructions, and we get much better hole shots, and we can get over the bike further with them. So if you're racing and you want a hole shot, we suggest it. Okay, so here's another neat little trick if you race in the mud. So what happens with the radiators is the mud goes into the radiator and then it either blocks the cooling or sits on the supports of the radiator and gets stuck in your radiator and prevents cooling. So we have a way to prevent, and again, we didn't develop these tricks. We've just been in the racing national series for so long. Everyone's doing it, so we picked up on it, is we run these radiator guards. Now there's a couple different types you can run. Home Depot sells these. I forget what they call it. I think it has something to do with concrete work or masonry work. If someone in this video knows what we're talking about, maybe you can explain it. And you just zip tie it on there. Yeah, so that's one option to do that. The other option is to use this gutter guard we have right here. That you can get on Amazon, just type in gutter guard. It looks way better, less noticeable, but it's a little more brittle than the white stuff. So again, I'm embarrassed, I don't know what it's called, but it definitely prevents mud from taking up, and it doesn't prevent cooling like, say, radiator guards, the metal ones would do. And happy with that. So if you're going to run handguards, you have the option for open or closed handguards, and there's a big debate, closed handguards and open hand, what's better? Obviously for motocross, never use the closed handguards, and we just switch over to open ones. But in the woods, we like the closed ones. We haven't broken fingers, we haven't broken wrists. When the bike falls, the bars are stronger now, they don't bend. We can put all types of covers over them if it's raining to protect our hands, and we found that Sycra has a huge selection of different kinds of wraparound and regular handguards to suit what it is that you're looking to do. Whether you want the bigger ones, the smaller ones, you want to bend on the side. So we've been real happy with those. So another thing we do is, hopefully you can find the video of the last one, we like to keep a certain selection of bearings in stock. Now we take our racing very seriously, so I don't think you're going to keep the bearings in stock that we do, but Yamaha has super good rear wheel bearing covers, or on their wheel spacers. Like, every company should aspire to have them the way that Yamaha does. So the rear wheel bearings, very well protected. I find that the fronts are, just making sure. Yeah, let me show you that actually. See those covers right, whoa, that's really close. The covers right there are really good. And we'll get into the brakes in a minute. But we like to keep a set of front wheel bearings, rear wheel bearings, and a shock bearing for minimum in stock and on the road with us. Because those are the things most likely to go. We've been very happy with the Worx bearings. They have them in stock. They ship the day that you call, and they show up at your door. And you can get a lot of stuff from Worx too, in addition to bearings as well. All right, so air filters may seem like a simple thing, but there is one air filter, in my opinion, that is a little different and a benefit, and I'll show you what that is. So this is called the DT1 air filter, and if you look at the filter, you'll notice it has this neoprene sealing ring here. So you never have to worry if your filter cage, and it's pretty big, if your filter cage is around a ring, or if the ring is sealing, you don't have to do the old school grease trick. Never had anything get by these filters. They've been extremely durable for us. Oh yeah, clutch. Let's talk about the clutch. So the Yamaha clutch is actually pretty good and pretty inexpensive. But if you want a clutch that's really durable, and you want a clutch that's not going to ever fail on you, and you want a clutch that's going to finish all your races because you're devoting a lot of time or money or effort, or winning is important to you. You know, you might be a casual trail rider, not care, is we use the Recluse torque drive manual clutch. That has been really awesome for us. We've finished, like I said, every race we've done in the last 4 or 5 years, and even more, with our Recluse clutches on all our bikes, and we race in the worst conditions. I mean, like the mud for an hour and a half or more with no brakes, axle deep the whole day. Hopefully Ryder will find the time to show you a couple videos of what we ride in, and you'll see these clutches, it's no joke. And hopefully we can find the pictures or show you the huge cooling holes that the pressure plate and the hub have. Huge, so much better and than the stock stuff. And believe it or not, the clutch pull gets easier than the stock one. So you start to put in heavy duty springs, now you got a stiff clutch. There's a million chains out there. Which chain to use? Over 20 years of racing for me, 10 years of racing for him, not one single failure with our Regina chains. Not one. Matter of fact, we did have a chain break one time, and I'm like, oh my God, now I can't say, and it was in practice, thank God. Now I can't say I've never had a failure. I was so disappointed that I couldn't say I've never had a failure. We put a new chain on, and I'm like, wait, why doesn't this fit? We actually got a sprocket from a different manufacturer, not a current one, that had the wrong pitch on it. They made sprockets with the wrong pitch, and that's why it broke the chain. So, and that's the Regina chain. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. And I was actually talking with the guys at Regina. I said, you know who else makes a good chain? And I hope you can take this. I say, Renthal makes a good chain. And they laughed. And I said, what's so funny? They go, we make the chains for Renthal too. So Regina chains, check them out. This is really a neat little trick. Like this one you probably didn't know. The G2 throttle is a quick turn throttle. We've been really happy with that. And the YZ125 and 250 use the same throttle, but you don't need the same delicate cam, and you can't change the cams on the Yamaha. So we use the G2, and that's been really good for us. All right, so now it's gonna get a little tricky with brake pads. The brake pads that come to Yamaha are pretty good, really good actually. But in certain conditions, like especially when the contraction is not good, we've been super happy with these EBC pads. I'll show you right here, these EBC red pads. And we tried a lot of pads. This little box right here was filled like 10 years ago. And you can see we tried just a couple. So EBC red pads. There's your part number. They definitely will not wear out. Oh, sorry. They definitely will wear out faster. That's what I'm trying to say. Than your metallic pads. A lot faster. And that's kind of why we run solid rotors too, because it makes your pads last a lot longer. So the spark plug that comes with your bike was actually superseded with Yamaha with a better spark plug, and it's a BR9EIX. I knew that. I didn't have to look at that. But if you even go to like the microfiche online and you look at your spark plug, you'll see they don't use that plug anymore. I don't know how you wash your bikes. A lot of people use power washer. A lot of people let their kids who don't really know what they're doing use power washers. We have a power washer. We never use it. What we do is we've had hot water, super high pressure, and alcohol player. And our bikes come out really clean, though they don't look really clean right now, or they could be cleaner because we weren't cleaning them for a race or a video, but we've been trying to make this video for so long, we just had to get it out. But I have seen so many wheel bearings and electrical problems, and swing arm bearings, especially by the countershaft sprocket, get wasted in no time at all by people being too aggressive with power washers. I understand not everybody has access to hot water or the time to use a hose, but if you have good pressure, hot water, and alcohol, you'll get your bikes clean. So for fuel, so when we felt that our bikes were running, getting some detonation in the beginning, it may have been, again, our leaner jetting, the way Ryder rides in the really cold weather. So what we run is our VP-C12. We used to run the 4.4, which is an oxygenated fuel, but the difference between oxygenated and the C12 is the C12 has a super high octane that prevents, detonation, where the 4.4 oxygenated fuel doesn't really have detonation component in it, or the high octane component. It has more horsepower. So you have to decide what you want, if you want oxygenated fuel for more horsepower, or if you want detonation protection for making your top ends last when you're hard on your motor. So we were running it 50-50, but now actually I think we can even save a little money and run it 2 gallons of C12 to 3 gallons pump, and still using our octane calculator, getting right where we need to be, where Apex tells us to be at 98 for theirs. And now when you use pump fuel with the C12, you get 98. And you got to keep an close eye on your jetting and your spark plug. So speak of keeping an eye on things, the copper washers that are on the heads of all bikes, they're not that cheap. They're like $5 a piece. And sometimes I want to just take a look at the cylinder or the piston and see what it looks like, because you can't always get a reading from the plug, because if the bike's idling for a little while, you're gonna get a different reading, or sometimes a new plug doesn't show color the way that it should. So sometimes we pull the head off, and that sounds like a lot, but it really doesn't take that long to pull the head off. You can get the tank off really quick. You can drain the coolant and pull the head off and put it all back on in probably less than an hour for most people. And an hour might sound like a lot, but not if you want to make sure your bike is running perfect. But you're going to spend $20 or $30 just in copper washers. That's where Cometic comes in. They sell the copper washers, quality copper washers, for 50 cents. So you can check that out at Cometic. And they also have a thinner base gasket than the stock OEM Yamaha one, if you want to experiment with that. And I don't think anyone else, maybe Athena had one, but it was super tough to get. Cometic has it too. They have all the gaskets you need. So there's an option for you if you want to try to squeak some more power out or start inspecting your top end. So for off-road people, how to prevent flats. So everyone knows there's Mousses. We are experimenting now, we're pretty new to them, with the Mr. Wolf Mousse balls. And hopefully we can show you a little picture of that. And I should have had one here, I apologize, I'm not ready. But with the Mousse balls, you can stagger them, put some space in them, and kind of end up with the pressure you need. It does take some practice to learn how to do this. And it's not one Mousse ball for every tire made. You kind of have to figure it out, and they can support you with the tire that you want, and then whether it's a mini bike or a full-size bike, and figure out how to get the right pressure, or at least the right balls to start with. So here's another little neat trick that we do with our bikes, and it's called the outerwears filter and gas can cover screens. And if you look here, this is one. A lot of people don't know about these. So they make these for almost every bike. They make them for everything. They make them for quads, radio controlled cars, like especially for your filters. But what's unique about this, besides the fact that it kind of floats and dirt can fall off of it, versus someone that stick really tight to your filter and to filter out extra dirt, but what else it could do is it filters out water. If you put this in the sink, well, not through this hole right here, obviously, the little hole, but if you put it in the sink, it will not let water through. So it's a way to keep water from getting sucked into your bike. And they also make one for gas can funnels. And I have put these on my funnels and strained gas through it. I don't think I've ever not gotten some dirt in this in a gas can funnel. So, with the 2 strokes, it's not such a terrible thing if you get the dirt, because they do have the petcock screen, but I still don't want any dirt going to my bike, and I don't want any water going to my bike, And if you have a 4-stroke that has fuel injection, it's a little harder to clean the fuel filters in there. So I definitely recommend looking into these outerwear pre-filters. Let's talk a little bit about the wheels. So we use 18-inch wheels for off-road and 19 for motocross, but the 18-inch wheels that Yamaha sells, they are 2.15 rim width. And not every bike out there is coming with 2.15. Like some of the 250Fs are coming with 1.85. And we got these wheels from Worx here. Like, I love them so much, I didn't even want to put them on the pavement. And this is a 1.85 18-inch rear wheel. And I know the Honda CR250F, I guess that's how you say it. I always mix up their RF. Their motocross and wood model, their motocross models is coming with a 1.85 19. And so is the new Triumph. So there's some advantages to having these smaller rim on a bike. So we're experimenting and happy with that, and we've been super happy with our Worx wheels. A lot of people are offering wheels out there. Most of them are just churning out stuff made in who knows where, and they're not really quality tested. If you just Google wheel, WRX, you'll see every review has been awesome. They build wheels that could be for whatever your purpose is, your color. They repair wheels. But I guess I really shouldn't talk that much about Worx, and more about, like, we've been experimenting with the 1.85 on some of our other wheels, and so far the experiment has been good. So another thing that we've been doing is using a 50 tooth rear sprocket instead of the 49, and we feel that that's a good combination here. We've been using the Mica sprockets. We do have a 40% off code on the bottom. I actually saw in our Motocross Action article where Ryan Villapoto said he was running a 53. That seems absolutely ridiculous to me. I don't know how he could do that, but I definitely feel like the 49 is a little too small for a 125, even with the improved horsepower of the Yamaha with the King carburetor. All right, so that's most of our tips. There's definitely a lot more that we're working and testing on, and like the longer we wait for this video, by the time we make it, who knows, it could be the end of the year if we waited until we tested everything. But that's a good start right there. Now, I did mention in the beginning of the video, and by the way, if you could please like, subscribe, comment if you're still here, that we tested some other KTMs and gas gases, fuel injected and carbureted. And let's just, to quantify this, let's just put a number on it. Let's say the best bike is a 10 and the worst bike is a 1. And we definitely felt the Yamaha was the best bike. Let's say it was a 10. And when we rode the fuel injected KTM, and my friend had a head on it, he had an electronic tuner on the handlebars. I can't tell if a bike is a good bike in the driveway, but I can tell if it's a bad bike right away. Oh my God, it was so bad. I almost got a little depressed. I'm like, how does anybody on a bike that runs this bad keep up with or beat my son on a bike that feels like it's an XR200? Like, I literally thought there was a rag in the airbox. They tried our bike, immediately that week went out and bought another one. And they kept saying how the carbureted version is the one that's much better. That's the one that everybody's trying to get. That's the hot one to get. And we have tried the carbureted version too. And the first time I tried it, I heard it, I'm like, ooh, that bike sounds good. Had a nice head on it. I'm like, oh boy, that I can tell this bike is way better than the fuel injected bike. And I rode it. And again, let's say the best bike is a 10, and I do think the best bike is the Yamaha at a 10. I'd say that bike was still an 8 in the carbureted version. So if you have a YZ125 and you see people on KTMs, Gas, Husqvarna, you can't think they have a better bike. As a matter of fact, I hate to be depressing, but if they're beating you on that bike, they're really good, because this is the best bike. So that's my opinion. That's our stuff. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope I explained myself clearly. Hope I didn't forget anything. And if you want to see some really cool race footage, check out some of our other videos of my son Ryder at GNCC or Tour. And if you like, subscribe, we're gonna actually have a couple other videos that we're gonna work on about tips and tricks on working on your bike and not necessarily setup. And I know some of them are really unique because people have told me they haven't seen them before. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot for your time and watching.